Hello, folks.
Hi.
Yeah, we didn't get to the cinema again this week because we had lots of things on. Gigs, birthday, steak. I might put up my Instagram story because, yeah, it was really good. Really, we can. But we've also spent lots of time watching Netflix. We're still to get onto The Punisher. That came out on your birthday, actually. And that I'm very excited for that. I think that's going to be a really interesting one to do at this point in time, with lots of debates going on about like gun violence and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it seems like there's always a debate going on about gun violence in America.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so that should be interesting. Haven't got to that yet, but we have been watching The Sinner. The Sinner.
Excellent show.
We're going to get into spoilers. It's called Spoiler Alert. We're going to get a little bit spoilery, but I'm going to give them a little rundown of what the show is.
I mean, essentially, it starts with Cora, this wife and mother to this young little boy, and her husband Mason are at the beach with the child, and suddenly they're sitting there on their picnic blanket and they're sort of feeding the kid pear or something, or an apple, and suddenly Cora sort of launches herself forward and murders a man on the next blanket, which is fairly shocking. And so basically it starts with the murder, so you know that she did it. She knows she did it. She pleads guilty because she has 25 witnesses saying that she did it. And so it's not a whodunit, but a whydunnit.
Yeah.
And so then it sort of just goes on trying to see why she did it, and it turns out there's a whole psychological thing of she can't remember 2 months of her life. 5 years previously something happened and she just has no memory of that time, and it sort of quickly transpires that something awful happened to her in that time, and that is the catalyst for what happened now. It's a sort of PTSD type thing that it sort of manifests itself in this way through this murder. And yeah, so it sort of follows her time in prison and the detective who goes out of his way to sort of get to the bottom of it because he knows that there's something not quite right.
Yeah, it's just a really interesting way for something like this to unfold, because like normally it's a whodunit, right? It's like the police don't really know who committed the crime, but it's very, very clear. The first episode it's quite graphic, but yeah, the kind of why aspect is really compelling. It's got a runtime, so each episode is about 42 minutes long, but the series itself is only 8 episodes, and I think that works really well. It keeps the pace up really nicely. Yeah. There are a few episodes that really end on a cliffhanger that you want to be like, oh my god, we've got to watch on.
Yes, even season 7 to 8.
I mean,
you will not turn that off.
We finished this pretty quickly, given like that this week we've had so much on. We managed to find time for this because it was just like, oh, we've got to find out.
Couldn't not, yeah.
And yeah, it's superbly acted. Like Jessica Biel, who plays Cora, and Bill Pullman especially, who plays the detective. They are both absolutely brilliant in this. And yeah, Jessica Biel in particular, like I had no idea she had this kind of range within her. Like she hasn't really done. I haven't seen her do many kind of truly meaty, dramatic roles in the past, and she knocks it out of the park with this.
Along the way, you have flashbacks, and you experience them with her, and you experience them how she's experiencing them, and it's sort of you find out at the end that her flashbacks have actually been wrong. She's put the wrong characters in her memories, and so the sort of the path that you think the show is following is completely not where it's going at all. So you're completely thrown off. And so she's got this younger sister, Phoebe, who has terminal illness and is very, very ill from sort of the day that she's born. And she has no life, and she depends on Cora and sort of lives vicariously through her a lot of the time. And there's not one part of me that assumed that sort of this thing that happened to Cora in this 2-month period had anything to do with Phoebe at all. And then it turns out that Cora had taken Phoebe out to a bar on Phoebe's 19th birthday, and things had gone awry. But at the same time...
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
Things went really awry.
Yeah, so Phoebe ends up dead, which is just not something that it's just so clever the way that it throws you off.
Yeah, I'd kind of called it by halfway through the 7th episode, so like about 15 minutes in real time before it happens. But before that, you're right, like it's leading you down these narrative paths, narrative dead ends essentially. And so But it's done so well because you're experiencing everything very much through Cora's eyes, and so that allows. It's a really interesting sort of televisual portrayal of a fairly well-worn literary trope of the unreliable narrator. And that's not because Cora's deliberately manipulating things. It's just simply because of the trauma she suffered, the abuse she suffered that we find out about, and the effect that's had on her memory. So a lot of it is actually kind of Bill Pullman desperately trying to piece together some of the history, the geography, certain things from the bits that she can remember to hopefully trigger new flashbacks, new re-experiences of her memory, so she can actually piece together the story and potentially deliver a motive or a defense or anything that can be used. And you made a really good point that everyone writes her off.
I think that sort of, it's weird because I was about to say that actually Cora turned out to be a lot more innocent than I thought, because there was something sort of almost cold about her, but she just, because she couldn't remember, and you think that she did something, you do start to think that she must have done something terrible, but then actually she is incredibly a victim in all of this as well. But she's just very silent, so a lot of the time you want her to talk, and especially in the first couple of episodes, and she's just completely silent, and her husband is trying to find out what on earth happened and find out what she'd been hiding from him, and she just won't talk and she won't say anything. She's just like, oh, I'm guilty, that's it, because she is blaming herself so much. And so you can, I guess you can see why people write her off. The main detective, not the detective, the police chief, wound me up because she wrote her off so much and so harshly, and was just adamant that this was a murder in cold blood, and that was the end of it, and she didn't want to look into it anymore. But the Detective Ambrose, he really, really is convinced that there's something to get to the bottom of here, and it's great to see that, and he's he does a fantastic job of it, and it's lovely to see that he won't give up on her, and she doesn't. She says on several occasions that he is the only person fighting for her. He is her only hope.
But I mean, through the first half of the series, you're questioning things as well. I mean, there are sort of holes in her story. Characters pop up, like the way she knows the man that she kills is revealed to be complete horse crap. Like her story shifts and changes because she's desperately trying to piece these things together in her mind, but her mind is kind of playing tricks on her, and it's only right at the end that you reveal the extent to which kind of Frankie, the guy who Cora kills, the guy who it turns out, massive spoilers, accidentally killed Phoebe that night. It's only right at the end you discover the extent to which his family has gone to cover up his tracks. And it runs parallel to a whole number of stories that, we've had in the last few years. People like rapist Brock Turner, who had sex with that girl behind a dumpster and, got off really lightly because of his college sports career, or the Oxford student who stabbed her boyfriend and was given a really lenient sentence because, they were worried that, she wouldn't be practicing medicine. She shouldn't be practicing medicine. She stabbed her boyfriend with fucking scissors. Was it scissors or kitchen knife? I think it was a kitchen knife. But this idea that, your potential should somehow outweigh a life is obscene and absurd. And I'm so glad justice gets delivered in this. You are rooting so much by the end for some positivity to come out of this. And in the end, it does. And it's really cathartic and it's really dramatic. And although I think the series does get a little bit silly, potentially at times, and there are one or two little holy bits, ultimately it was thoroughly gripping. Yeah. So we were gripping onto one another. It was.
Yeah, but also a lot of most of the plot holes do get resolved. Most of them are sort of part of the, finding out.
Yeah.
And also
there's some really questionable parenting. But...
yeah, just a bit. But also the another sort of a strength of the show is that the detective also has his own backstory, and it sort of turns out that he has potentially similar issues to Cora, and that he might have suffered abuse in the past, and he blames himself for everything that had happened to him. And sort of some of the things that he does now in his adult life are probably as a result of things that happened to him maybe earlier in his life. And so I really like the way that his sort of subplot is developed, and that it's not just focusing on Cora, because you could in only 8 episodes you could quite feasibly only have one storyline, but I really like the way that you find out a bit more about him and what makes him tick. I think
I agree, but I think one of the greatest things about Ambrose is that everything comes back to Cora in a way. Like, so his marriage is falling apart. He's got some strange predilections in terms of S&M. Like he's channeled whatever abuse it was in the past. The series never really goes into exactly what that is, into this, into a situation where he enjoys being dominated and punished and made to feel pain. So he's internalized that, whatever negative effects, the abuse he suffered in early life, he's internalized that and explores things in some quite destructive ways. But through it all, there's this dogged determination to find out Cora's story. And I like that actually the series, it hints towards his history and he mentions it briefly, but the story never really becomes about him per se. And although he gets like the final shot, he sort of looks questioningly at the blood underneath his fingernails from the dominatrix stepping on his fingers, as if to suggest that, maybe he's realizing that this isn't the way forward, this isn't the way to heal. Although there are some nice touches like that, I do like that the story is never really about him. This is actually a really kind of, I think, quite feminist tale in a way. It's about Cora's story. It's about this woman who suffered really, really traumatic abuse, and it's about how she breaks through these barriers, so many barriers. And we see this in reality so many times when people come forward with these stories, the questions from every single corner, asking, like pouring doubt on these stories, and how victims internalize it as well. Like, she spends so much of this series blaming herself for things that actually turns out she didn't do. But I really like the juxtaposition between her tale and the hints that the series gives in terms of Ambrose. Like, I think it's really really well done. I think it's quite an important series.
Definitely.
So 2 thumbs up.
Definitely a thumbs up. I mean, it was very tense, and it was in some places I really didn't want to look, or it was sort of incredibly, I don't know, I found it quite, not scary, but sort of I found it affected me a lot. But at the same time, it was so hooking, and I could not turn it off. These are the kind of things we want, aren't they? And I don't need this to be a season 2. I don't think that it really could be. I don't, wrapped it up in a way that the only feasible sort of thing they could do was... No, well, I don't even know. I don't know what they could do.
Don't do it. Like, True Detective had a perfect first season and then went off a cliff because they decided to ruin a good thing. Don't make a second season. This thing is
But make more one-season things of this kind of thing. Yeah. Because I think these work really well.
Really well. I know, the industrial kind of temptation is to try and create something that you can franchise, right? But in this case...
There's no point to it. It's just going to put people off.
And I think this is why sort of like things like Netflix and Amazon Prime are flourishing, is because you can do these things. You can take more creative risks. You can tell these stories. Netflix is smashing it. This show smashed it. Jessica Biel smashed it. I hope some awards come knocking for this thing. I absolutely loved it.
They definitely should. Yeah.
Really good.
really good. But let us know what you think, because it'd be really interesting to know the sort of how other people saw it and your reaction to it. So let us know if you've seen it or if you're going to see it, or Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you make of it? What are you going to watch next? What should we watch next? What would you like us to watch next? Exactly. Yeah. We'll be back next Sunday with another spoiler alert. But in the meantime, have a good one, folks, and we'll catch you soon. See you then. Bye. Go watch this show.